Change my state of mind. Love so hard to find.
Hello everybody, my name is Moon, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are finally talking about the August roadmap, and whoo boy, a lot of shit happened within the span of the whole entire month. Like, I'm not even kidding. Damn! This month was so fucking crazy that even the whole entirety outside of the actual roadmap weeks were fucking crazy. So without further ado, let's get on to the video. So like July, we're going to combine the first 2 weeks of August. So the first week, we just have a new horse here. Nothing super special about it. I mean, you know, it's totally not a horse that I really wanted since they started going into Gen 3. It's totally not gonna break my streak of not buying horses, right? Why are the lights off?
Welcome, child. Conduct yourself into the Gen 3 Shire Circle.
What are you talking about? I totally am not going to be buying horses. I'm not giving my money.
No, you want to, child. Buy the damn Shire. Buy it!
I want the Shire.
I don't like where this is going. Stop! Stop! No! Please, Larry, you don't understand. You don't know what you're doing here.
You better stop! Stop! Bitch, stop!
Yeah, this is where my star coins went. As you can clearly see, I, bought 2 Shires. I have no shame. I totally didn't buy anything else. Oh, fuck it. I bought a perch on an American paint horse, okay? There, I got my shame out of the way. So, as you can clearly see, since I bought the fucking Shire, I give this horse a 10 out of 10. I have no shame. This horse is fucking amazing. I have no complaints. I've been really excited ever since the Shire spoilers have been out. My ass has been excited, y'all. I was fucking excited because y'all know I love my chunky boys, and Shires are one of my favorite breeds when it comes to chunky boys. So my ass had to get my hands on these. I'm sorry. But yeah, so I think we can all learn from a very valuable lesson that as long as I don't buy star coins, I should be okay.
FBI, open up!
Because this shit was purely saved up, and I'm now at a comfortable 2K something. But yeah, probably gonna only be investing my star coins into horses that I really like. But I still ain't gonna give them any fucking money. I'm sorry. They're gonna not get a dime. They're just going to be getting saved up star coins.
This is a beautiful chunky boy and a chunky girl. I'm sorry, they're both fucking gorgeous. I love them.
There was also more medieval bridles that came with this as well, so if you want to get some medieval shit, you go get them. Then the second week, it's just a new race in Valedale at Valedale Lake. There's nothing really new. It's just a cross-country race. It's not really anything exciting in all honesty. So that's really about it for the first 2 weeks. So now let's get on to week 3. Well. We actually got a main story quest in August. They totally didn't forget that they abruptly stopped midway into the climax of an actual quest line a couple of months ago. So without further ado, let's do the summary. You picked up where you were last time in Hollow Woods, where the Soul Riders can give you a recap if you want on what happened last time, and then segue into the main point of the conversation. Since they agreed on growing up Concord against her own will, they decided to head back to the Stone Circle to confront the Druids and Fripp. So after a few cringy dialogue options, seriously, this writing is getting cringy, dude. However, they were 2 steps ahead, and Avalon and Fripp were literally capping the entrance.
Fuck the police coming straight from the underground. A young nigga got it bad 'cause I'm brown.
Basically, Avalon scolds every damn one of y'all, but more specifically on for the 5-leaf clover to the Ghost Crow Tobacco in Hollow Woods with the supposed mysterious force, which essentially turned into an argument that got heated further after the Soul Riders mentioned that they were gonna grow up Concord because of how On feels like she can't do shit with a foal. This basically leads to Avalon having a heart attack on how they plan to talk to P again to help again, Fripp being a shitty moderator, and then they try to drag us into it by trying to get us to be the mediator of their Housewives of Atlanta TV sequence.
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the reason?
I had a reason.
What was the reason?
I just explained the reason.
What was the reason, bitch?
I don't need to explain myself to you. And
What was the reason?
Then fucking Evergrade joins in with being okay with us going to P and giving tips on conversing with witches. However, all of them disagreed about growing up Concord, which then leads to a point where Fripp finally steps up and lets us know any suspected lore on the mysterious force and any questions before he blesses us like a priest and head off. Just never fucking say dialogue like this again, SSO. Whoever thought of, oh, nay, she didn't, needs to stop before they turn into when my parents try to be hip with the other kids. So with Alex and On, you head to use your ethos, pathos, and logos on P, who literally barricaded herself in after running away like a baby last time. So to make P less scared, you get to shoot at the fucking crows that were a pain in the fucking ass from the shell activity last time.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
You then try to persuade P again, and after Anne starts to use the power of the cairn, P reveals that she thinks the mysterious force is from a group of witches called the Vala.
He said, Kapooyah, Kapooyah! And your boy, that hell just came in. I looked at opened my door, and I looked out my door and started hitting me in my head. I took out running, ran to my rescue, but then I called my mama to see was she all right.
But when you try to ask more, she fucking threatens to turn you into frogs like it's 2012 again.
Bitch, I hope the fuck you do. You'll be a dead son of a bitch, I tell you that.
So you head to Mrs. Holdsworth with On to see if she could help. However, upon reaching her house, Miss Holdsworth wasn't there, so while waiting and looking around, Anne gets emo again about her life and other shit, until Cora and her seagull beeper, who wanted to send her a message, arrived to the premise. After conversing with her on where Mrs. Holdsworth could be, Cora mentions how she might have went to Fort Maria to research on shit. So with that bit of info, Anne contacts everyone in Voodoo Talk.
Escucha las palabras de las brujas, los secretos escondidos en la noche, los antiguos dioses invocamos ahora.
And head to Fort Maria. Y'all understand how excited I was that this area was finally getting used ever since Epona came into the game, y'all. I was excited. Upon arriving there, Fort Maria was invaded with magical crows and balls and shit, so you have to break their ankles to the top to get to the door. But the door was covered in tall ass weeds taller than my future. You try to burn it, cut it, and a bunch of other shitty methods, but it wouldn't fucking go back down. So to figure out there's another way, you and the Soul Riders interrogate families all over Epona that have been in Epona for years. You and Linda interrogate the Buttergoods, which leads to getting to speak with the daddy of the Buttergoods. Even though you never get to go into the fucking mansion, it leads all the way back to Scott Buttergood. And he claims he saw a Fort Maria beast that likes books and that could potentially know how to get in. So he has us make traps with food and the Fault in Our Stars novels ourselves, since he had the dip to go after a Kelpie. And at night, he managed to figure out the beast was just a Capricorn from the Christmas Village, and her name was Beatrix. Beatrix explains she knows the way into Fort Maria, but she doesn't trust y'all, so you have to be a butler and get her food and gossip stories for 4 days straight so she trusts us. Now this didn't bother me as much, because at least it wasn't a reputation that took 3 months to do one measly 10-minute quest. I'm looking at you, Jamie Oliver Tree. But for the most part, this was okay. But I still wish we could tell what her reputation was at while doing it, or that there was dialogue changes in her slowly trusting us. After 4 days of being a higher drama channel for Beatrix, Beatrix finally trusts everyone, so she leads you to a side entrance into Fort Maria, and y'all, this shit was fucking magical.
Wait a minute!
Damn! Nice.
So while I was running around like a kid in the candy store and doing the sparkle points, Beatrix is trying to figure out how to get into the main Fort Maria library, so after doing the puzzle that she couldn't figure out, you fix the stairs and go into the big-ass rustic mystical library and find Mrs. Holdsworth on top of one of the staircases. At first, Mrs. Holdsworth was fine with being stuck until you tell her that the Vala could be starting up shit in Jorvik, and Miss Holdsworth wanted to get her granny ass down.
Help is on the way, dear! Help is on the way!
So after touching more buttons again, you reach Mrs. Holdsworth and she explains why she was here doing research and how it could link to the Vala. Before she could show you her research papers, a remodeled bitch comes in and it's none other than fucking
Jessica.
I'm gonna roast your J-Lo wannabe ass later. Hell, I'm gonna say funky ass Jessica, cause hell,
I still don't like your remodel, bitch.
Jessica's funky ass pretty much berates your ass, and after a roasting match, she dips. So as always, the Soul Riders have you go after her, and she ends up on her Barbie licorice Marwari horse talking to a Vala witch who took the research papers from her, and once she sees y'all watching her funky ass get outplayed, she becomes the genius from the Disney Princess Enchanted Journey and multiplies herself into 3, and this part was kinda badass, not gonna lie, where you get to not only chase after the Vala witch, but also get the papers she dropped along the way. Mainly just need, I believe, 12 in total, so after ankle breaking Jessica's funky ass multiple times, going over gaps, and breaking Vala everything balls and close ankles, manage to get most of the papers as the Vala witch disappears, and Jessica's funky ass gets pissed and runs away.
Bye, have a great time.
You go over the info with Mrs. Holdsworth, and it ultimately leads to the Vala witch's crib potentially being in Devil's Gate, another area that hasn't been used for years, and then tries to see if Mrs. Holdsworth can change Concord into adult since she still wants her old one back, and finally, someone with a brain tells On that she's still strong with Concord as a foal after telling her no, and finally knocks some sense into her emo ass brain.
Just gotta be the bigger man. Really? Be the bigger man? How? How can I be the bigger man? I'm 5'4".
Finally, someone told her that she's still a strong, independent woman that doesn't need to rush a foal to grow the fuck up and be a bazooka. And after being held on another cliffhanger because of us not being ready to go to Devil's Gate, that concludes this main story quest. So, as always, let's go into the pros. Surprisingly, I liked this main story quest. Out of all the quests that came out this year, this is definitely the best one released so far this year. And that's sad when you think about the other quests that were released this year being really shitty and short as fuck. I love how we finally sort of did PvE shit with our magic that doesn't involve getting magic balls and charging through something. This was actually interactive and not something you just sit and run around for a period of time. Once you get to the opponent in Fort Maria portion of the questline, it gets really fucking good. I really liked the race with Jessica's funky ass, and on top of that, this bitch, thank fucking God, she's called Jessica. For those of you who don't know, they called her Jay last time and I almost lost my shit. And thank fucking God, this bitch was actually trying to be intimidating instead of being emo with barely given anything like Kaja and being completely out of character like crusty ass Sabine. Jessica actually almost felt like a threat, and I hope in the future she actually does more than multiplying and stealing shit, cause maybe there's a sliver of hope that one of them can be intimidating despite their crusty ass remodels. Fort Maria was fucking amazing, the library was badass, and I'm excited to hopefully see it used more for lore purposes from the monster door to the lore it could have, especially based on what the characters have said so far. There was actual lore that was kinda engaging, so good job SSO, you actually managed to do something lore-wise. Now on to the cons. What the fuck was the first half of the quest? I never cringed so hard from horses and people trying to make up horse slang and sound hip. I feel like I was watching one of my professors trying to fit in with people my age, but ultimately look like an embarrassing ass mom or dad as their kids hide in a corner to not even be associated with them. I felt like it was too much, especially with Avalon's witchist ideas, and it kinda just felt like the levels of a child rebelling against their parents like a stereotypical Disney Channel movie or Barbie movie.
I don't know
what you're doing with your little friends, but when you're living in my house, we have rules here.
Sorry, Mom, I'm not really fluent in...
I mainly wish stuff was more fleshed out and not rushed in some bits, especially with Ann's emo ass. It kind of felt like last time where we just glaze over her emo-ness and then randomly do something else to move on with the story. The reputation part with Beatrix wasn't really fleshed out in my opinion. It still mainly felt like chores and not actually getting to know Beatrix in this segment. I wish they'd done it to where you do different stuff for her instead of being a hired butler in Drama Channel with doing things such as maybe taking her to interesting places with lore or helping her get stuff that's not just food and gossip related to actually feel like we're bonding with her and having a better friendship. It was mainly just get her food and a story for 4 days straight and she magically trusts you. It wasn't the length of the days I had an issue with. It was mainly how the timeline of gaining her trust didn't really feel like we bonded to her character. She kind of just felt like she was just there, especially when she kind of gets cringy with calling Holdsworth her granny and also kind of talking about how she got her name from a book. Daddy? Do I look? Now Jessica's funky ass. As y'all know, I'm not a fan of how Sabine, Jessica, and Pokemon Shiho were remodeled. I'm fine with Kaja, but not those three. Even though Jessica was definitely the most intimidating of the remodeled Dark Riders that we've seen so far in the game, I still have gripes with her appearance not even being close to what she looked like prior. From her Barbie licorice Morwari to looking like she was a staff member from Olive Garden or a fancy ass restaurant. She still has moments where I feel like I'm talking to someone that's not Jessica. At least she wasn't doing something not intimidating like Sabine and Kaja, but even then, she has areas lacking when it comes to her remodel. Besides the shitty writing and pacing in certain areas, and of course Jessica's funky ass, overall I give this quest a 7.75 out of 10. It was a very memorable quest and it wasn't a quest that I fully wanted to throw something at for once, and despite the cringy dialogue moments, it was the closest thing to excitement so far in terms of 2022. Hopefully with this new lore part we get into more exciting shit, and not stuff that's too dialogue heavy. Besides the quests, we do gotta pay our respects to another Gen 1.5 breed that's getting the retirement hammer, and that is the Morgans. Please don't get this confused by the Gen 2 Morgans, they're still here, y'all. This was actually one of my favorite Gen 1.5 breeds, and fun fact, Sundance, aka Sunny, I actually used her a lot in a lot of my older edits when it comes to editing and stuff like Photoshop or GIMP, and along with a lot of other memories that I've had in Star Stable. So to honor her brethren that are also getting taken, let's have a moment of silence to pay our respects for this loss in history. Thank you. With that being said, let's move on to week 4, where I start with one of the more controversial updates of the fucking month of August. And mind you, this is just the start to a lot of other shit that I'm gonna talk about after week 4. Week motherfucking 4. We have another new magical horse after literally coming in with the new Gen 3 Shires and also having the rerun of the rock horses. This time, it's magical halflingers named Antithia and Hermuria. I don't know anymore. Shit. We're gonna go with Hermera. Shit, fuck it. What the fuck is this? So for starters, they were fully revealed a week before they came to the game, and not gonna lie y'all, I thought they were Gotland ponies in the sneak peek. So these horses are supposed to be fall themed, when it wasn't even close to fall yet, by the way, cause it was still fucking summer in August. Once they were fully revealed in spoilers and also in pictures and social media, the majority of the feedback, well, let's just have y'all see it for yourself. This fucking magical coat is ugly as hell.
Electric chair.
So as you can see, a lot of people spoke up on how they love the normal coats but hate the magical coat. And after a heavy amount of feedback from literally everyone and their mama, which by the way, most of it was basically them saying they don't like it, do you think SSO After having multiple issues with listening to feedback from the Gen 3 Frisians to the Sandline scandal with SSD and how certain remodeled areas and characters looked, did they finally learn to listen? No, they didn't change a damn thing. Y'all really want me to pay 900 star coins for a Pixie Hollow wannabe toy fairy that looks more like it's for Halloween and not regular fall? Y'all tripping. So to commemorate even further on how shitty these horses look, a couple of my friends have given their critique on what the fucking magical halfwingers look like to them. So here's a list, read by me, on what they ended up describing them as. I can't help myself, but I feel like it's more Halloween themed than autumnal themed. I can't with the orange. They look yucky. I hate the purple. If they changed that, it would look nice. The horns should be placed lower. I would say these looked more like fairy themed horses. God damn it, remove the wings. The green one is just a Halloween horse. They look like a bad face. They look like a bad face. Yeah, oh God. I can't, oh Lord. They look like a bad fancy dress costume. The wings look pasted on with glue, the horn looks odd, and the flowers in the mane were taken from last year's Halloween horses like a child's drawing. What in the world? They look like the ballet dresses I had to wear during rehearsal. Oh God. I'm pretty sure that if they took the orange horse's mane and made it leaning towards a warm green like a yellow green or moss green, then it would look so much better. The teal blue tint does not look good at all. The lack of detail. There's zero fucking detail. Looks like grandma. Looks like Grandma Curtin. The grandma horse. Oh. You know who you are, whoever said Grandma Curtains. What's your horse's name? Grandmother? Why? Have you seen its tail? The halflingers are cute. They aren't worth the money, and then they make a magical horse for it. I gave them only the most deserving of names. Octopus. And Pink Eye. Octopus is also my 1669th horse, so only fitting. If you're watching, whoever put Octopus and Pink Eye, you know who you are. Dear God, y'all be killing me sometimes, I swear. So for starters, I only really like the normal coats on these horses and animation-wise. The halflingers are pretty good. Now the fucking magical coats.
Jesus Christ.
As I said earlier, they look like Pixie Hollow fairy toys, but with the horn, it looks like they took it from a tow truck and super glued it on the top of their forehead. First off, fucking Antithia. You look like you wanted to be the Kelpie horse, but you couldn't get fucking weed and daisies, so you went with Hubba Bubba Bubblegum and glued it into your hair and decided to be the color of someone's fucking hydro flask from Amazon, and like the beef jerky dollar store tree horse. You look like you smoked 10 packs of crack and went on to get reviewed like you were high. Shit, your design was so shitty that I even made a fucking band edit based on what my friends roasted you on your tail.
1、2、3、4，我想要带你去浪漫的土耳其，然后一起。
Don't even get me started on Hermera, cause what the fuck is this color combo dog?
He needs some milk.
Shit, you might have got the worst color combo of the year award because you're already in contention of being the ugliest magical horse of the year with the wannabe real bacon and mac and cheese fish horses. Hermia looks like he went to Sumeru in Genshin Impact and wanted to be the rainforest and the desert at the same time, but he still wanted to look Pandorian, so it has got the same shit Antithia did and look higher than a tree house could ever be.
It's time to play Who stole the drugs? Was it me?
Was it me?
It's him. Fucking pink fairies everywhere.
Shit, even your pets are high as fuck as well, since it looked like they rolled around in pixie stick dust thinking it was the same dust Tinkerbell used to fly. You ain't the same color as one of Dora's pants.
But you can sure as hell return yourself to her, because you and your fucking sister, or whatever they are, needs to go back to Sephora or Ulta or any damn makeup or salon and fix your fucking designs.
Y'all remember the Don't Judge Me Vine challenge where they go from basic or ugly to looking hot as fuck in 2017? That's what your ass needs to do to fix this catastrophe. Whoever designs this needs to go back to art school.
And look at color theory and shit, because someone was high as fuck to think this was a 10 out of 10 Mona Lisa for a museum.
Alright, now I got the roasting out of the way. You think all the feedback the day of the release would surely get them to fix shit? Well, this is what SSO had to say to a comment on Insta and even in some Facebook posts. Disappointed. The brown one could have been such a beautiful horse if you just removed the purple from it. Yep, I've seen a recolor with the same yellow they used on the fairy wing thing instead of the pink, and it looks fabulous with the color switch. Guess I'm not buying magic horses again. We're sorry that you feel disappointed. Please keep in mind that even something that may appear to be a small change rarely is simple nor quick. Furthermore, our artists and writers have their own visions when creating a new horse or new content. And sometimes the feedback we receive simply isn't aligned with the direction they were going for. We know that some of our players really like the design of Hermiteria and Antithea, and that some don't. And though we won't make any changes at this point, we do appreciate the input, and we will make sure to consider this feedback for our future projects. So you're telling me you rather please the artist who worked on this fucking disgusting magical horse instead of listening to what the community thinks of the fucking horse? Keep in mind that we're going to talk about a situation very similar to this again for the final week of August later on. By saying this is the artist's vision really shows you only give a fuck about whether your artist loves it or not. It's on the same level of saying your mom loves your singing, but the fucking judges on AGT and the audience don't like it. Even though this is their game, there comes a time and point in life where you need to not only see feedback and take it into consideration for other projects, but also fucking apply said feedback on the product the feedback was seen on and fix it. It's not no, oh, you don't like it? Okay, we'll make sure the next one doesn't have the same issues. It's supposed to be, okay, we'll go back and change the colors and fix the details to fit with the colors of the coat to look more like it's an autumn horse. We're sorry for the inconvenience. We'll fix it as soon as possible, and if anyone wants a refund on fixing the horse, please let us know, and we'll make sure to show the new design to see if it's better before we put it in the game again. You can't just carry on like nothing happened by throwing Hail Marys and thinking we're gonna love it, SSO. SSO, every time we want something changed or fixed, we have to constantly beg and plead with you like we're in a Judge Judy court case, and considering how much the community loves you, you need to open your eyes and come to the fact that not everything a designer makes for you is going to be a 10 out of 10 for your customers. If the majority hates something, you should probably go back to the drawing board and fix it. This isn't a candy flavor that people can hate and you make more flavors that are better. This is something people spend money on to have in the game. To have a better example for this, for those of you who remember when I did part 2 of the Ambassador series, people came out to correct on some things or add some things onto the video itself. So like any normal person, we took it down, added the adjustments, and re-clarify our points and why we're saying certain things in the video and make it better than the last. Changing the fucking color on a horse doesn't take months to do, y'all, considering how people in Photoshop or Maya or Blender can do that quicker than your ass, and you're a company for crying out loud. You can have a fucking direction, but if that direction shows that a majority of the community doesn't like it, you should probably reevaluate your decisions. You've made adjustments to horses before and after releases as though. The Gen 3 Fjords went from bird poop tails to luxurious dorsal tails. The Gen 3 Crackhead Magic Frisians had a scale added on to the end of the lizard tails to look a little better despite the breed still being disgusting animation and model-wise. You changed the animations of the trackers, even added a bald face to the Chestnut Arabian. And don't even get me started on how you saved your asses that one time by changing the English thoroughbreds after the trailer was released into a much better, hotter version in-game. So now you're saying your ass can't do it because of your direction? Honey, if you can't change something after a shit ton of feedback, your ass needs to not own a game. My lord. Overall, the rating of this infestation is a fucking 5 out of 10, because at least the model and animations are fine, but it's like the magical Arabians and the budget bar carts where the coats are ugly as fuck or they don't fit the fucking theme of the horse. Next time SSO, if the majority of the community says you need to fix or change something back or change something to make it better, your ass should probably do it and be more transparent with us by asking us if we like it or not before putting it into the game. But the fact you can't even change the colors of certain parts of the coat because of what your artist wants is sad. Now, before we do the final week, we need to talk about two things that have happened in August. First off, let's talk about the Gen 2 Pentabian nerf and the outcry from the racing community. During the third week of August, SSO forgot to mention that they nerfed the Gen 2 Pentabian animations after some people complained on how it was making racing unfair. Before we dive into this issue, let's go back in the history of horses used for winning champs. Back in the golden age of SSO, the first fastest horse of the game was actually the Gen 1 Fjord, because everyone and their mom used them to win champs and get high scores, but at the same time, people on other horses were still able to win because regardless if you had a Fjord or not, what matters when it comes to champs is utilizing the shortcuts and being able to time jumps perfectly. Then the Gen 2 American quarter horses came out and people migrated to them for a bit because then they were proven that they were the fastest, until their animations got fucked up later down the line in the Tyranny age. Then after that, it was the Gen 2 Icelandics being considered the fastest, and after that nerf, it went back to the Gen 1 Fjords. Up until the Fjords' departure, finding an actual racehorse was stagnant until later on people discovered the Gen 2 Batavians were faster when it comes to races, and for a while they were used for champs. Plus, thanks to the Gen 3 Arabians, they were cheaper, so anyone could get one if they wanted to. People on other Gen 3 horses could still win, just it took a little more in terms of skill. Now we're back to this point. When SSO nerfed the Gen 2 Pentabians, people from the racing community spoke up, more specifically, Corinne Misthill. She came back from literally the SSO dead and spoke up on the importance of not only why this heavily affected the racing community, but also how the racing community is really neglected. She made 2 posts before she deactivated her account again because of how she doesn't really go back to SSO anymore due to how dry the content was, so she mainly has been doing Genshin Impact videos ever since. In these posts, Corinne nicely broke down why the Pentabians were essential and how it affected the racing community, along with calling out to SSO, and she even gave 2 examples on why people from the racing community weren't happy with the nerf. This would essentially lead to a comment section of mixed feedback and debate, and it was really heated, y'all. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get screenshots, but it was really heated. Unfortunately, it also led to people shitting on not only Corinne, but also anyone who disliked the nerf of the Pentabians. As for me, at first I was actually torn. On one hand, I can see why the racing community was upset. On the other hand, I understand why people were happy they were nerfed. So I came to the conclusion that it heavily shows how the racing community is neglected and that not much is taken account when it comes to racing. Yes, they get new races, but in terms of what makes racing fun and exciting, there's not much to look forward to. Hence why people hoped SSO would really work on the racing system like they promised back in 2021, which by the way still hasn't happened by the way. What a lot of people hoped for racing is to have things like sprinting actually have races make sense when it comes to checkpoint time limits and obstacles, have stats and skills actually matter more than just have a really high swiftness and riding skill, and fix the grouping issues and more. When it comes to horses, not every horse is the same fucking speed, y'all. So to back up this point, I'm gonna use Red Dead Redemption 2 horses as an example, even though it is not a horse game. Their horses are really good though. Horses in Red Dead Redemption 2 have other purposes besides going from point A to B for your cowboy or cowgirl aesthetic. Some breeds are good for being less fearful when it comes to hunting. Some are good for beating people or NPCs at random in races. And some are just good for being all-round horses. Other games have also done this, with Skyrim with having Frost, Aardvark, and Shadowmere being better horses than the ones you get from stables. Black Desert Online with horses having better skills or stats. Mounts in games like Rise of Icarus or Guild Wars 2 with not only in aesthetics but also also different skills, and also other games as well. I think having horses with different speeds in SSO keeps in touch with the realism side of the game. Yes, this is a fantasy MMO, but you still need to have some realism, such as fire burns shit. When you touch water, you get wet. I think a way to also help the issue of always having to use in Patavian when in champs, you could create champs or something that rotates what breeds can participate in each race to not only make it more engaging, but also still have people use a variety of other horses. Plus, it would help if the champs are different courses that would make it more fun instead of just being the same courses they always had. It would also allow SSO to be more creative when it comes to racing. They had things like sprinting or the return of the cold tolerance in Dino. And if they had champs in Dino, horses that are able to handle the cold can participate in the champs there, or if horses aren't able to handle the cold, they can have gear that keeps them warm, or have something like a potion to handle the cold for a certain amount of time. Things like that can improve the gameplay and open up doors of creativity when it comes to the game. I honestly feel like one of SSO's major flaws is not using their creativity to its full potential when it comes to content or other things in the game. I would say overall this situation not only shows the lack of communication SSO has with the community, but what happens when SSO caters to certain parts of the community for a longer period of time. I also personally feel like SSO caters to the realistic role-playing community or the photographer community the most, from giving different props to having clothes, etc. And meanwhile, communities like SSO Dressage had to beg SSO to give them their lines back. I would also like to mention that now people had to go back to the Generation 1 fjords after the nerf of the Pentavians, which by the way, not everybody in this game have. So essentially now it's back to a horse that is inaccessible to people in the game. I'm also gonna leave this an open-ended question. Are y'all happy with the Pentavian nerf? Do you think SSO could do more when it comes to making sure all parts of the community feel heard? Do you think this could have been handled better without having to nerf the Pentavian? Let me know in the comments on what you think. Now we're going to get into another topic that's really controversial, but also cringy as fuck. So let's look at the August portion of the Horse Girl campaign. Dear God, this campaign has been messy as hell. So for starters, I'm gonna mainly talk about the August portion of it, and then the next roadmap we'll be revisiting it to look at what they did for September. For starters, a while back, SSO did a survey relating to the horse girl stereotype and some other things such as horse riding and how we feel about horse games. This would then lead to a campaign, and at first they thought the best fucking hashtag was hashtag reclaiming horse girl. Ladies, gents, and non-binary butts, just to make sure my ass isn't crazy,
horse girl's a fucking stereotype.
This isn't some word that needs to be claimed. Now, obviously people have been bullied for this, I can acknowledge that, but I feel like they handled this really bad. And here's why. For starters, it feels like a repeat of the 10th anniversary video, where it's really not inclusive. They don't address how people that aren't girls get heavily made fun of when it comes to liking horses and horse games. They pretty much treated boys and anyone that's non-binary as a side chick at someone's birthday party by saying you can still come even though they were never invited. Next, the way they're going about this was bad in itself, and we'll get more into that once we go more in depth about this. But essentially, this campaign is once again a good idea but a bad execution. To make matters worse, one of my followers, Sophia, thank you Sophia, sent in a screenshot of a response SSO said to someone who gave feedback on the hashtag, and this is how that went down. Please do not treat horse girl like a slur. It would be extremely insensitive to minority groups that have had actual slurs used against them. The hashtag is already pretty bad, reclaiming words the reverse for marginalized groups of people that were and still are discriminated against, such as people of color and people in the LGBTQ+ community. I think you have a good idea in, I'm assuming, trying to prevent the bullying of horse girls, but you're going about it in the wrong way. Rethink this idea before it backfires. Those who have been labeled as horse girls tend to be called that in a way that is not so enduring or positive, so it's essentially a slur in the horse community.
Let me just go in the bush and weep. Let me just go in the bush and weep. I just have to go in the bush and weep. Really. I don't understand.
We're working to reclaim this stereotype.
Wait a minute!
We're working to reclaim this stereotype.
Boy, if you don't...
We can acknowledge that marginalized groups need to be discriminated against while simultaneously working to better how people who love horses get treated in the future. of the movements can exist at once without being at odds with one another. Y'all seriously just contradicted yourself on how you said it was a slur, but then you said that it was a stereotype.
Honey, make up your mind.
SSO, once again, horse girl is a stereotype, not a fucking slur. This is not on the levels of the N-word and the R-word. For those of you who don't know, I'm African American. Just right now, SSO skin tones don't really have much, so this is the closest I got to mine in real life. In history, we had to take back the N-word because of how back then it was used so negatively and it hurt so many people, which is why we had to take back the meaning for something else. And by the way, this is my second time recording this because the first time I was really heated. The R-word, on the other hand, was used to hurt people who were disabled, along with other slurs referring to people in the LGBTQIA+ community, along with many others. Horse girl is a fucking stereotype. And fun fact, Abigail Pinehaven talked about this when I was on Rydel's Horse Game podcast, which if you haven't seen that, go check that out on her channel. We didn't just talk about if we had experiences with this and if other girls were bullied by it. We also talked about how fucking everyone of any race, gender, got bullied because of liking horses. The sheer stupidity by saying it's a slur, you might as well go back to fucking history class and learn what the fuck a slur truly is. And if y'all think this was the only backlash, look again. Since the first time they announced the campaign, the official launch video came out and, just look for yourself.
Who are these horse girls that we have so much to say about? Apparently, we're crazy.
That bitch is crazy.
Weird. Buddy? You're weird.
Jesus fucking Christ.
And guess what?
Not the cap.
Lord have mercy. It's not really giving off empowerment with using the Urban Dictionary definition as a standpoint. And on top of that, I don't think it's a good idea to try to normalize being called crazy, obsessed, and weird. By also mainly making this a girl-only thing, you're feeding into the stereotype that horse games are for girls when they're not. And this is why we still ask for male and non-binary characters in the game. For a refresher on why I believe SSO will be fine with male and non-binary characters in the game, check out the first episode of my docu-series on SSO, and I believe it is the second to last section of my video where I not only break down how male and non-binary characters are doable, but also how we have a shit ton of games with female protagonists. Now back to the topic at hand. What SSO should have done was instead say, no, we're not weird, crazy, and obsessed. We're strong, passionate, and more. If anything, you should really say there are questions, and don't forget that not everyone and their mama can buy a horse, or let alone have the money to own one. Look at me, for example. I play horse games not only because I love horses, but I just love horse games in general. Obviously, I want to learn how to ride a horse and own a horse when I'm older, but that requires not just the want and the time to do it, but also money. When you excuse the need to be inclusive when it comes to loving horses and the reality of life when trying to even own a horse, it comes off very tunnel vision, especially when you make it a girl thing only. Ladies, let this be known that everyone in the world can be negatively affected in so many ways, both in-game and in real life. To say that male and non-binary characters would ruin it is fucking delusional. Don't ever walk around thinking you can only be powerful by only having girls in an area. It comes off as very disrespectful to both sides, and it doesn't help empower girls either, Because you're gonna instead just teach them that girls can't do shit when boys are there. Literally the things SSO described in their campaign, boys and people who are non-binary can do the same. If me speaking on how this campaign was horribly done isn't enough, look at the fucking comments on the posts they've done so far. As you can see, yes, there's still some people that are for this campaign, but there's still a majority speaking up on how this was horribly executed. The right way to make an empowering movement is to redefine shit. That's why people said redefine instead of reclaim when they were giving critique on the hashtag, because we're trying to take down the stereotype, not feed into it, and by calling us crazy, obsessed, and weird, and not being inclusive when men and people who are non-binary also get bullied for liking horses and horse games. You're only feeding into the stereotype more and not breaking them down, SSO. Y'all need to realize and evaluate yourself and question if you really are inclusive. You're not inclusive if you just have sprinkles of diversity in certain things. You need to be diverse and inclusive throughout. We're not in an age anymore where we gotta single out genders just to have something in the game. You can make a better place and still have both fucking genders, for crying out loud. Games like Red Dead Redemption 2, Kingdom Hearts, Final Fantasy, and more have further showed female characters and or protagonists in different lights of not only being strong, but also just good characters in general. By limiting not only the creativity of when it comes to the characters, but also in interest of certain games, you aren't building bridges. You're only tearing them apart and separating even further. The first part of the campaign in August just feels like a repeat of the 10th anniversary video while sounding like a stereotypical Disney Channel commercial. This could have been a good campaign if they acknowledged how people of all genders are heavily affected and look at the reality of the situations at hand. Instead, they heavily glorified it to make them not only look good, but also continue to feed into the stereotype instead of taking it down. Other things they've done with this campaign is give out a redeem code for a Ride With Us hoodie, but with a redemption cap, because for the first time they claim that they are going to have 150k redemptions only on it, and when they are fully used up, they will donate it to a place of their choice. But they haven't even disclosed who they're donating it to. For all we know, they could potentially be taking the money for themselves or donating it to a shitty charity or organization.
Hell yeah! I have the power of God!
I hope the money is actually put to good use at a good charity, but even then, this campaign is so shitty and uninclusive beyond belief. And once we look at this again in September in cursed comments, it's gonna show further on how this campaign is heavily flawed. Now with that out of the way, it's time to look at the final week of August. Just like the previous weeks of August, this shit was fucking crazy. This time we have a Horses of Yurvik that actually benefits my ass for once. But even that is just a fucking race. We also had a mini One Quest of Lore with Mrs. Holdsworth, where she basically has a TED Talk on more for Maria stuff. But there wasn't much after that, to be honest with y'all. What really took the spotlight was another fucking shitty change that SSO decided to do behind our backs. As you may notice, SSO has changed the fucking font of their website. But even then, the fucking font isn't friendly for all languages. And what that means is basically, if you try to do a letter for say with an accent of some sort, it basically breaks into another font. So for languages like, for example, Czech or Hungarian, you get this clusterfuck for a website. This was one of the things they've done to look more modern. However, the main fucking thing they did was change the fucking icons of Star Coins, Jorvik Shillings, and Star Rider.
This how press it.
Who the fuck wanted these changed? Nobody ever in their mind asked SSO to change the icons because they were fine before. You could tell what was what and it fits Star Stable. And they think some stickers from Claire's and Currency looking like sweet tart candy was fucking better than gold and blue coins. Not only that, they thought it was a brilliant idea. Instead of having a star, you have a fucking shield. Bitch, this is Star Stable, not Shield Stable. What are we trying to do?
King Arthur's Round Table.
Once people saw these changes, everyone and their mom spoke up again on how they look ugly as fuck. This shows that sometimes not everything looks good simplified and what's considered modern. What do you want? Please! Not only that, they came in with another fucking shitty response by saying this to someone in a comment thread. Our designers get free reign to make changes as they see fit to their specific project or role. Sometimes that vision doesn't align with what the community wants.
And
but we can assure you that we're sharing the feedback we received with them to see what changes will be best to make. Sound a little familiar? So now you're telling us you give people free fucking reign on what to do without any sort of direction on how it should fit Star Stable. What the fuck?
Disgusted, I am revolted, I dedicate my entire life to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and this is the thanks I get?
So, just like the magical halflingers, they want to please artists again. Jesus Christ. However, after a bit, they then came out on Twitter saying they plan to modify them again while also contradicting themselves in how they can't change them back when all we wanted was the old icons back. They just really love to throw Hail Marys like it's a football game, don't they? They've made promises like this before, where they told us they were going to change and fix the Gen 3 Frisians, more specifically by Stacey Place, and right now, it's been almost 2 years and we still have some buggy ass crackhead Frisian dog that acts more like a fucking behemoth than a horse. Y'all need to start communicating with us on what's going on. It's fucking ridiculous. What they should have done was tell us that they're thinking about changing the icons of the currency and Star Rider, and they should have showed us some ideas they are thinking about for the currency and the icons, and ask if we like the old ones or new ones more, or if they asked us what ones do we like the most. That's how you communicate with people in your community, not through copy-pasted empty promises, SSO. It's funny because later on in September, they now ask us on if we like something for some pixel art toy set, but they didn't do that with everything else. They either ask for feedback but don't use it, ignore our feedback and keep moving on, refuse to change stuff, or change stuff without asking us. You're telling me you can't change 3 PNG files in a game? Dear God, if you can't even do that, then I'm more convinced your tech deck is worse than I thought. Honestly, this whole month has now led to us into a brand new period of time that I like to call the crumbling plague. This is the period where shit with SSO keeps falling apart further and pushing the community to the fucking limit. It's now become more outspoken, kind of like the Tyranny Age, but also similar to the Solus Age, but a hell of a lot more extreme. I'm curious as to how this is gonna go going forward, because it's at a point where, especially with the beta test that's going to occur in September on the updated characters, that we might see more of this, especially when it comes to SSO's bullshit. I love this game, y'all. I do, but it might be getting to a point where one day an update is going to cause it to crumble like a sandcastle. We can only hope that the more we speak up, someone will finally listen and stop it from crumbling again. With that being said, we've reached the end of the August roadmap and the entire month of August. Lord have mercy. September will probably be the same because look at this sorry ass roadmap. Y'all didn't even do the full month yet, bruh. As of right now, September has been chaotic as well, with the other half of the Horse Girl campaign along with some other shit. So keep an eye out on what's coming when I finally look at the September month as a whole. And what did y'all think of August? Was it chaotic? Was it fun? Or was it a bunch of emotions? Because for me, I feel like I went through a roller coaster in August from this game. So as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!